Chapter 11. Another confrontation. You are listening at Novel Full. Audio. Wang Jianxin understood that Zhang Lai fully intended to sever the relationship between them, and that objecting would only repulse him further. Zhang Lai, this is my fault, so if you insist on buying the property, something like 500,000 will be more than sufficient. I know how difficult it is for you to make money, and Hanxiang will have quite a few expenses ahead, so consider the rest a sponsorship on my behalf. Thank you, Uncle Wang, but I still can't accept your generosity. I'll figure out a way to eke out a living for both me and Hanxiang. Please, sign. Zhang Lai once again rebuffed Uncle Wang's offer and handed him the contract and black card. Wang Jianxin frowned, criticized Wang Xiaohua, and, reluctantly, accepted the card and signed the contract. With this new contract in place, the old rental agreement was naturally invalidated. Zhang Lai's part in the matter would be finished as soon as he handed over the contract to his lawyer. And from then on, that rundown property in the slums would belong entirely to the two of them. Of course, this was only the beginning. Given Zhang Lai's abilities and growth potential, he swore he would bring his sister into the special class, or even royal class, residential areas. They would have more and more properties, and even a dojo of their own. When the contract was finally signed, Zhang Lai huffed a sigh of relief. Uncle Wang, regardless of your actual intentions, thank you. He bowed respectfully, then briskly turned to leave. From start to finish, he never looked at Wang Xiaohua again. Only when Zhang Lai had vanished around the corner did Wang Jianxin pull Wang Xiaohua back into the manor. Xiaohua, you were far too impulsive, now look at what you've done. Wang Xiaohua still looked a little aggrieved. And yet you still hit me twice, Dad, just to put on a show for that piece of trash that I really don't understand why you're so polite to an idiot with a crippled sister. Why? Wang Jianxin folded his arms in front of his chest. You don't understand how wily their father is. Given how much treasure he amassed before going missing, it's quite possible that he left something for his children. What's more, haven't you always claimed that Zhang Lai was at the bottom of the gene leaderboard, that he's nothing but a weakling? In that case, where did he get all this money? Wang Jianxin held the black card up in front of his daughter. Wang Xiaohua was equally flummoxed. Given Zhang Lai's appearance and living conditions, he certainly didn't look like the type of person who would be able to pull out $2 million on a whim. I'm surprised too, Dad. He spent 3 months only killing white grubs, so how did he get so much money in a matter of days? But don't worry, as long as he's still in the Black Steel settlement, I'll have an answer for you quickly enough. Wang Xiaohua's eyes glinted. In her mind, Zhang Lai was like a stink bug that she could crush with her shoe. Wang Jianxin advised her, don't do anything to him, he doesn't look as easy to handle as you think. Don't worry, Dad. No matter how tricky he is, he's a total weakling. Wang Xiaohua grabbed the black card from her father, smiling. I'm going shopping. Newsflash. At 10 a.m. today, another Monarch. Class hunter has risen from the ranks of humanity. Congratulations to Yan Tianjun, the 9th Monarch. Class hunter of humanity, soon to be heading toward the 5th realm. Zhang Hanxiang had just pulled up an article when she noticed Zhang Lai returning. Brother, you're back. Zhang Lai put down the bags of food in his hands and responded distractedly. He was completely focused on the Chinese man currently being interviewed by reporters on the news. A newly birthed Monarch. Class trying to enter the 5th realm without any disaster. Grade gene fragments. Is he trying to kill himself? A true Monarch. Class hunter was one who had reached his disaster. Grade gene capacity in the 4th realm before heading to the 5th. Monarch. Level hunters were incredibly dangerous hunters who were able to damage the very skies with their attacks, and humanity shouldn't have had more than 3 true monarchs at this point in time. He had deliberately lowered his voice to avoid being overheard by his sister, but he hadn't accounted for how sharp her ears were. Zhang Hanxiang asked curiously, Brother, why do you say that Monarch. Class hunters shouldn't enter the 5th realm? Many people know about the fourth realm. The final battlefield between mankind and genetic lifeforms. But do you know about the fifth realm? Zhang Hanxiang shook her head. I'm not a fifth-realm god-class hunter, so how would I know what it contains? Hell! Zhang Hanxiang was stupefied. Isn't information about the fifth realm restricted by the World Federation? How do you know about it, brother? Zhang Lai rolled his eyes at her. After all, I'm a hunter myself. Isn't it normal that I would know a little about this sort of stuff? The information's only restricted for regular citizens, not hunters. In truth, most hunters knew nothing about the fifth realm, not even Lord-class hunters who were about to ascend to the fourth realm. At this point in time, there surely weren't more than 100 hunters in the fourth realm. As soon as people started to understand the horrors of the fifth realm, perhaps no one would be willing to ascend. And without an influx of hunters as reinforcements, those monarch-class and god-class hunters who had advanced to the fifth realm would surely all perish. Their death would represent the start of a new dark age for humanity. Now too weak to protect themselves, humans would quickly be enslaved by more powerful aliens. Zhang Lai knew about the fifth realm because he was once a fourth-realm hunter. It was thought that monarch-class hunters would be able to stand against an onslaught of disaster-grade lifeforms. In hindsight, however, no force of humanity was yet strong enough to kill such creatures in bulk. Hunters were only able to hunt disaster-grade lifeforms in earnest as the result of a series of remarkable inventions and discoveries over the next decade. However, just because other hunters weren't able to do so didn't mean that Zhang Lai couldn't. That he murmured to himself, since I've come back in time, I'll certainly prevent the tragedy of mankind this time around. Hanxiang smiled as she prodded her brother. What are you mumbling to yourself, brother? It's nothing. Let's eat, and then I'll have to head out again. Zhang Hanxiang pursed her lips. Ah, right, did Uncle Wang agree to sell us the house? Of course. Nothing would ever fail with your brother in charge. Really? That's wonderful. Huh, we have a house now. This house is purely ours. Zhang Hanxiang's tinkling laughter resounded in the small house. After having an enjoyable lunch with his sister, Zhang Lai again returned to the settlement. The first thing he did was browse through the trading post. The 5 potbelly toad soul shards had all been auctioned off as he had indicated, and he had earned a huge profit. The main currency used within the settlement wasn't Federation money, but instead the points that could be obtained by trading in the meat and flesh of genetic lifeforms. The 5 soul shards alone had brought him 13,000 points. While fighting the pot-bellied toads, Zhang Lai had found himself lacking a multi-target skill, lowering his hunting efficiency significantly, and he hoped to rectify that deficiency now. Unfortunately, even after an exhaustive search, he had found quite a number of suitable fire-attuned techniques, but no water-attuned ones. Either the techniques themselves were lacking, or they weren't suitable for Zhang Lai's hunting style. Since he couldn't find a suitable water-attuned technique, he would let them come to him instead. Moments later, he posted a new request on the trading post offering 10,000 points for a high-grade multi-target water-attuned technique. Of course, he still anonymized himself. Zhang Lai didn't want to be noticed just yet. Finally, he walked out of the settlement, preparing to return to the Blood Crystal Valley to continue gathering blood whiskers. Just like last time, however, he found himself surrounded by people once again. None other than Wang Xiaohua and her team, and now even her boyfriend, Qin Xiaotian, and his team as well. A dozen people encircled Zhang Lai. A large crowd had gathered by the settlement gates, watching the commotion. Oh ho, it looks like there's no way out for our poor king of the dumps this time. Wang Xiaohua's a tricky hunter to antagonize, after all. Who's second to last on the gene leaderboard? He must be feeling pretty upset right now. Ha, he's already last. Zhang Lai hit his ranking on the gene leaderboard about a month ago. Who was the one who said that Zhang Lai was actually hiding his strength? Look at him now. Ignoring the crowd, Zhang Lai focused on Wang Xiaohua. Wang Xiaohua, do you really have nothing better to do? Ah! Xiao Tian, look at how rude this fellow is. Wang Xiaohua, as if shocked, grabbed the young man by her side coyly. Qin Xiaotian smirked, then turned to Zhang Lai with a look of disdain. So, you're Zhang Lai. Xiaohua told me you've been bullying her lately. How'd you get your strength? Some fortuitous encounter. Tell me and I'll give you a clean death. Qin Xiaotian was the younger cousin of Qin Xiao, currently third on the gene leaderboard. He was handsome in a boyish way, but was notorious for being small-minded and petty. Because of his cousin's strength as a hunter, there were few who dared to challenge him. In truth, Zhang Lai didn't want to start a feud with him at this juncture, but there was little he could do now. Based on his ranking on the gene leaderboard, Qin Xiaotian had surely filled his mutated gene fragments to capacity, and Qin Xiao would surely have helped him get a few superior gene fragments too. And his framework was, at this point, only comparable to a mortal.grade framework. The only advantage that he had over Qin Xiaotian was his superior.grade soul's heart. Perhaps that would be sufficient to deal with Qin Xiaotian, but what about all his lackeys? Zhang Lai couldn't take them all head-on. In that case, he had to avoid a direct confrontation. Ha, you think I'll lose to you so easily? Try me on, you pieces of trash. But that didn't mean he had to suffer their insults without retaliation. Chapter 12. Secluded Glade. You are listening at novelfull.audio. With a resounding boom, the crowd saw Zhang Lai's body glowing blue as a translucent ball blossomed into existence around him, knocking those hunters surrounding him aside. As the crowd watched on, Zhang Lai, his entire body still encased in the sphere generated by the superior white-grub soul's heart, bounced off into the distance. Qin Xiaotian gaped in amazement. How could Zhang Lai, well known to be at the bottom of the gene leaderboard, handle such a confrontation so calmly? It looked as though he really was hiding his strength, and the soul's heart that he was using didn't seem too bad either. Interesting. Go on, chase him. Don't kill him too quickly, though, I want to play with him. Qin Xiaotian's eyes lit up as he stared at Zhang Lai's fleeing form. His lackeys immediately raced after Zhang Lai, circulating their genetic energy for a boost to their speed. However, they had clearly underestimated Zhang Lai's capabilities. In mid-air, Zhang Lai activated his Gale Wolf Soul's Heart, bouncing away even more rapidly than before. He was moving so rapidly that even Qin Xiaotian's lackeys, each of which had reached their mutated gene capacity, weren't able to catch up despite using everything they could. Not bad, not bad. Surprisingly, Qin Xiaotian seemed to grow even more excited, and he pulled Wang Xiaohua with him as he joined in the chase. The more exceptional Zhang Lai's performance, the more secrets he was hiding, and the more treasure Qin Xiaotian would be able to paw from his corpse. Qin Xiaotian's lackeys weren't weak, and even though they wouldn't be able to match Zhang Lai's speed in the short term, he couldn't shake them off either. In the end, they vanished out of sight from the onlookers by the settlement gates, all of whom were chattering with each other in shock. Have I gone blind? That Zhang Lai actually managed to escape from Qin Xiaotian's team that easily. Haha, who was the one who said that Zhang Lai was dead meat? I knew he was hiding something. Surely that's a mutated.grade soul's heart, at the very least. And we all thought he was useless. Don't you guys think that that ball looks familiar? Like a white grub core. Damn, could it be? Do you think? That was the reason why that guy spent 3 months hunting white grubs. You guys must be crazy. When have you ever heard of mutated.grade white grubs? No one has ever seen any. No, I'll have to check it out for myself. Heh, you fool. Don't believe everything you hear. What I'd really like to know is whether or not he can escape this time. You think he can make it out of Qin Xiaotian's clutches, and that I'm the fool? Surely he wouldn't be able to escape. Wanna bet? A heavily bearded man turned to the agitated youth by his side. The brash youth inclined his neck, refusing to back down. "What stakes?" The bearded man chuckled. "Say, a small bet of 10,000 points. 10,000 points. That wasn't a small bet at all." The youth hesitated, causing the bearded man to snicker. "What, you don't even have 10,000 points?" Of course, the youth took the bait. "You think I'm afraid of you? You're on." Their conversation had been loud enough, and the crowd bored enough, that the two-person bet had quickly ballooned into something that even the three large corporations of the dimensional world had a stake in. Of course, most hunters bet that Zhang Lai would die, especially those in the know from the large corporations. They were intimately familiar with the strongest hunters of the dimensional world. And even though Qin Xiaotian wasn't all that strong, Qin Zhao's name was known to all. He was a bossy and domineering fellow, yet one who would protect anyone in his posse. Qin Xiaotian had surely gleaned quite a few benefits from him. Meanwhile, 1.5 months ago, Zhang Lai had clearly been at the bottom of the gene leaderboard. Even if he had had a chance encounter, there was no conceivable way that his strength could exceed Qin Xiaotian's. The dimensional world wasn't like reality, except in settlements, the rule of law didn't apply. The strong could do what they wanted. And Qin Xiaotian wasn't alone. His entire team was with him. Zhang Lai had no escape. As a result, the odds quickly tilted in Qin Xiaotian's favor, eventually settling on 100-to-1 odds against Zhang Lai's survival. Of course, Zhang Lai had no clue what was happening back in the settlement, otherwise, he would have bankrupted himself to join in the bet. As he bounced through the dimensional world, Zhang Lai's eyes glinted. The world was so large that, despite having been discovered decades ago, there were still a few mysterious regions that weren't common knowledge. And since his pursuers were still quite a distance away, Zhang Lai was, for the most part, free of any danger. Based on his understanding of the dimensional world, there was no way he wouldn't be able to escape Qin Xiaotian's pursuit. In fact, what he was thinking of wasn't escape, but retaliation. Qin Xiaotian's intent was clear. To chase him until his stamina gave out, and then to capture him alive. In that case, he certainly wasn't going to take it easy on them. After traveling hundreds of kilometers, Zhang Lai's genetic energy was flagging. His pursuers grew ever closer, but Zhang Lai's face became more and more relaxed. Right in front of him was a particularly dangerous part of the dimensional world, the night forest. "Stop running away, coward!" Qin Xiaotian's team shouted upon seeing Zhang Lai about to escape into the forest. Heh! Zhang Lai ignored their cries as he bounced inside. The pursuers hesitated by the boundary of the forest. Behind them, Qin Xiaotian called out, "Go on, keep chasing him. He's all but depleted of genetic energy by now, and he won't be able to go much farther." As a result, the entire team followed him into the forest. Zhang Lai turned back and grinned. He knew just where he would lead them. Once within the forest, Zhang Lai had morphed his bubble into two soft, flexible whips, which he used to swing through the trees like an agile monkey. He led the hunters following him to a lake within the forest. It was fed by a waterfall, one that the hunters could clearly hear from afar. "We're at the moonlit pond," Qin Xiaotian exclaimed, glancing at Zhang Lai, who was standing right beneath the mouth of the waterfall. He had once been to the area with his cousin Qin Xiao. It was a rather famous location within the night forest, and it was said that a particularly dangerous dragon-type life form lived within the pond. Apparently, it was an exceedingly rare superior-grade moonlight WIRM. There had been quite a few hunters itching to hunt down such valuable prey, but no credible sightings had been reported within the last decade, and the rumors had turned into legends. It looked as though Zhang Lai was so desperate that he had no other choice to run here, believing in a legend. Just as Qin Xiaotian was about to order his team to surround Zhang Lai, however, he ran through the waterfall and vanished from sight. Even Qin Shaotian was amazed that Zhang Lai had prepared such a way out for himself. Quick, chase after him. Of course, no matter what Zhang Lai did, he was sure that he would catch him today. Because, just like Zhang Lai, he wanted to kill any threats before they grew into larger problems. Captain, it looks like there's an entrance here. Qin Xiaotian's team quickly found a cave opening behind the waterfall. Enter, but be careful of any sneak attacks. Qin Xiaotian's team rushed into the cave. Darkness smothered them. The scout in front held one palm up, aflame by his fingertips, as he forged onward. His other hand was holding a blade. His name was Fang Qiong, and he was the deputy captain under Qin Shaotian. His genetic framework was high-grade and fire-attuned, and his basic and mutated gene fragments were filled to capacity. He possessed 3 mutated-grade soul shards, and the blade in his hand was B-grade. After 3 minutes, the pursuers walked out of the cave into what seemed to be a secluded glade. Everything in the glade was tinged a royal, mysterious, purple. The grasses and plants growing from the ground, the vines hanging from trees, even the trees themselves, filled with rich and resplendent fruits. Qin Xiaotian's sharp eyes immediately spotted a few exceedingly rare and precious herbs. This place is filled with treasures. Captain, we're rich, right, Captain, all this is ours. Wang Xiaohua, Fang Qiong, and the others had also noticed the rare plants that seemed to grow like common weeds in this hidden glade. They had almost forgotten that they were here chasing after Zhang Lai. And they certainly didn't notice Zhang Lai, covered in some purple powder, watching them from afar up a little hill. Go on, laugh while you can. No matter how many herbs you pick now, you're all going to die. Zhang Lai stared at his pursuers as though they were already nothing more than corpses. It was only then that Qin Shaotian and the others finally noticed Zhang Lai in the distance. In truth, it wasn't that they weren't paying attention, but that Zhang Lai, covered in purple powder, blended in too well with the surroundings. Looking at his unconventional appearance, as well as his smile, Qin Shaotian suddenly felt a sense of unease. He had deliberately led them inside this hidden glade, so there had to be some danger in here for them. Zhang Lai, your tricks are nothing in the face of absolute power. Since you've brought us here, I'll give you a clean death. Fang Qiong, get him. Yes, Captain. Qin Shaotian decided to kill Zhang Lai on the spot to prevent any complications from arising. Shaotian, don't. I still have a few questions for him. Wang Xiaohua pleaded, clearly intending on ferreting out some information regarding Zhang Lai's inheritance from his father. After all, Zhang Lai's sudden growth in power made it quite clear to her that he had inherited something good. It would certainly agree with her father's hypothesis. Just then, when Fang Qiong had only taken a half-step toward Zhang Lai and Qin Shaotian and Wang Xiaohua were locked in dispute, a mysterious susurrus began to emanate from the cave behind them. Qin Shaotian and the others immediately turned around, eyes widening in shock. Chapter 13. Scorpion Horde. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Ah, scorpions. So many of them. Wang Xiaohua began to shriek after a moment of stupefied silence. Indeed, scorpions. Countless scorpions with a violet, crystalline exoskeleton were skittering out of the cave and the greenery surrounding them, fading in and out of existence as though they were ghostly spirits. They were only palm-sized, but could move surprisingly quickly. The tips of their stingers was a dark violet, and they were of a breed that even Qin Shaotian didn't recognize. In an instant, the scorpions surrounded Qin Xiaotian's team. Strangely enough, there were also quite a few scorpions by Zhang Lai's side, but even though they crawled on his body, they showed no signs of attacking him. They're finally here. These venom-bane scorpions hate fire, so I hope you're all prepared to die. Zhang Lai no longer bothered to hide his killing intent. Ding! Ding! Qin Xiaotian's body glowed golden, and he began swinging his blade. Wang Xiaohua, Fang Qiong, and the others all took on fighting stances, killing the scorpions which swarmed toward them from within the cave. Even the scorpion's blood was purple in color, and sprays of purple mist began filling the air. "Ha, is this all you can do?" Qin Xiaotian scoffed, having defeated the first wave of scorpions with ease. "Oh, we're just getting started," Zhang Lai called out, laughing. He sat down by the top of the hill, lazing luxuriantly as he watched Qin Xiaotian. As furious as he was, Qin Xiaotian and his team was surrounded by a veritable sea of scorpions, and he had no way of attacking him over such a distance. The scorpions seemed to come at them in an endless tide. Qin Xiaotian bellowed, "Just you wait, you bastard. I'll make you suffer a fate worse than death." Then, he immediately began commanding his team. "Feng Qiong, use the 4-spirit formation we devised." Beside him, Feng Qiong and 3 of his other teammates each activated a transformation. Type Soul's Heart and morphed into a lava tiger, a vine asp, a firebird, and a crystal, 4 curious lifeforms. The tiger howled, the snake hissed, the bird called out, and the turtle bayed. After their transformation, they had lost the agility and techniques of their human form, but their size and strength were magnified. The combination of the 4 transformations was devastating. But although they were able to beat back the tide of scorpions, the scorpions continued swarming at them without any sign of stopping, no matter how many carcasses of their own kind they had to wade through. The 4 lifeforms were arrayed at each corner of a square formation, protecting the rest of their teammates within. They tried to rush out of the entrapment, towards the hill Zhang Lai was on. Most of the Venombane scorpions were only regular grade lifeforms, with a few mutated grade ones scattered among them. Even the most advanced scorpions were only superior grade. But no matter their level of evolution, all Venombane scorpions shared 2 characteristics. First, a surprising level of stealth. Second, venomous poison, of a particularly dangerous sort. Qin Xiaotian's team had already experienced the scorpion's stealth. After all, even Qin Xiaotian, who had quite a few superior gene fragments, hadn't noticed anything amiss upon entering the glade. The poison was even more frightening, and was rightly the characteristic by which these Venombane scorpions were named. The scorpions actually had 2 types of poison. One from their poison sacs and released through their stingers, which would quickly induce cell apoptosis and death. Without the antidote or suppression by genetic energy, it could kill a hunter in a matter of seconds. The second type of poison was from their blood, which rapidly vaporized when exposed to the atmosphere, forming a poison mist. Those who came in contact with the mist would find the poison seeping through their skin, leading to paralysis. Be careful, they're poisonous. As the mist grew more and more dense around Qin Xiaotian's team, he shouted out a warning. A large part of Qin Xiaotian's strength was due to his connections and wealth, yes, but he wasn't stupid. Scorpion-type lifeforms were closely linked to poison, and he had been wary of the possibility since the beginning. However, he had noticed the poisonous mist far too late. Zhang Lai had laid out his plan carefully, and he wouldn't have lured them here if he didn't think he could get away with it. Despite the hunters' attempts to flee the sea of scorpions, there were simply so many scorpions that they were stuck no matter what they did. The problem was especially bad in Feng Qiong's corner of the square formation. Despite knowing that his body was covered in flames, anathema to the scorpions, they still swarmed him preferentially, choosing to die just to inject their venom into his body through their stingers. Of course, under the effects of a mutated grade soul's heart, regular grade Venombane scorpions could do nothing to him. With the 4 transformation type soul shards active, although they couldn't force their way out, neither could the scorpions break through their defenses. Unfortunately, the transformation type soul shards consumed so much genetic energy that they couldn't keep it up for long. Xiaotian, we won't be able to break through this sea of scorpions. We need to retreat, we can't last too long like this. Right, Captain, he's just a rookie. We can nab him whenever we want, there's no need to waste our time here. In the midst of the formation, Wang Xiaohua and Qin Xiaotian's remaining team members tried to persuade him to retreat, especially Wang Xiaohua. The moment she saw these scorpions, she felt a strange premonition of impending doom, a prickling sensation that grew worse upon seeing Zhang Lai's bloodthirsty gaze. At the moment, she couldn't think of anything else besides fleeing. No, we have to teach him a lesson now. He won't get away with luring us into this trap. He raised an outstretched hand, and a resplendent golden javelin began to manifest. Demon Breaker Javelin. Die. With a yell, the javelin in Qin Xiaotian's hand began to glow. The golden light flashed so quickly toward Zhang Lai that it reached him in the blink of an eye. However, unexpectedly, a thick, translucent wall popped into existence just as the spear was about to hit him. The javelin, tossed with great strength, shot toward the wall like a comet, only to be trapped halfway into the wall. It exploded in a burst of golden light. Zhang Lai didn't even flinch. Qin Xiaotian's eyes widened in shock. How can this be? That was a mutated grade 1 use javelin, and it'd be able to break through the defenses of even a regular superior grade life form. How could the attack have been blocked by that technique? Unless... No, that's impossible. How could a guy like that have gotten his hands on a soul's heart of that caliber? No, something had to have gone wrong. Xiao Tian, stop muttering to yourself. We need to leave, or we'll die. Captain, look at Zhou Ming's Firebird transformation. He's moving a little woodenly, and I think something's wrong. While Qin Xiaotian continued to gape in shock, Wang Xiaohua and his subordinates continued trying to persuade him to leave. The poison mist was spreading all around them, and Qin Xiaotian knew that they would all be in serious danger if they didn't leave now. He glared at Zhang Lai and bitterly called out, "Retreat. We'll leave through the cave and get this bastard some other time." Of course, the Venombane scorpions certainly weren't going to let this crowd of intruders leave so easily. As if sensing that the other party had just called a retreat, the already furious scorpions swarmed toward Qin Xiaotian's team in even greater numbers than before. Even worse, the mutated grade Venombane scorpions, dispersed within the crowd, had also begun to attack. Suddenly, whirling winds surrounded the time. As Feng Qiong's Firebird form flapped its wings furiously, the Venombane scorpions surrounding the team were all flung aside. But just as he thought that the coast was clear, a burst of violet light darted toward the teammates behind him. Arg! With a pained yelp, behind the Firebird, one of Qin Xiaotian's subordinates collapsed. He Feng. Qin Xiaotian and another subordinate shouted He Feng's name simultaneously. However, He Feng didn't respond. He slumped onto the ground like a marionette whose strings had been cut. By the right side of his neck, a hole about as wide as a finger was leaking purple blood, and the flesh around the wound was quickly necrotizing. Be careful. There are mutated grade scorpions around us. A hunter on the left flank fortuitously dodged another flash of purple light. Just as he called out, however, the scorpion struck again, tearing his ear apart. Qin Xiaotian, scowling fiercely, a golden sword in his hands, sliced at an incoming blur. Watch out, there's more than one. Even Zhang Lai had to admit that he wasn't a weakling. Mutated grade Venombane scorpions wouldn't drop their stealth until the moment right before their attack, and the fact that he was able to notice and respond so quickly meant that he had to have at least 20 superior gene fragments. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to defeat them with a single blow. Zhang Lai was very glad that he hadn't opted for a direct confrontation. Of course, killing just a single mutated grade Venombane scorpion didn't change things. After all, the entire glade was a nest of scorpions. A death or two were meaningless in terms of the number of scorpions that were still swarming toward them. And even if Qin Xiaotian was able to handle a mutated grade Venombane scorpion, the rest of his teammates and Wang Xiaohua could not. He might be able to save one or two of them, but there were bound to be more casualties. Shouting in pain, another hunter fell to the ground. Even the four transformed hunters were starting to falter, and the square formation was breaking apart. If Qin Xiaotian didn't do something, the team that he had worked so hard to build would all perish in this nightmarish glade. Chapter 14. Blood Feud. You are listening at novelfull.audio. As his teammates fell one by one, Qin Xiaotian howled, "Zhang Lai, I'll kill you." A blinding golden light emanated from Qin Xiaotian's body. Amidst the swirl of genetic energy, he morphed into a gigantic gold pangolin, the effect of a superior grade transformation type Soul's Heart. Zhang Lai's eyes widened. A transformation type Soul's Heart was rare enough, let alone a superior grade one. It would be sure to fetch a good price if he were to auction it off. Unfortunately, it wasn't a human type life form, so the transformation would render one incapable of using genetic techniques. Otherwise, its price would definitely rise at least 100-fold. Qin Xiao must like his cousin quite a bit to have sent him such a rare Soul's Heart. Well, I'll thank him for the kindness in advance. Zhang Lai ignored the fuss Qin Xiaotian was making, treating the Soul's Heart in Qin Xiaotian's hand as though it already belonged to him. By the cave entrance, Qin Xiaotian's claws swiped at the air around him, forcing even those mutated grade Venombane scorpions lurking around him to retreat. The next moment, he grabbed Wang Xiaohua. His scales began to twist rapidly, as though he were a golden drill. With a tremendous grinding sound, he burrowed into the earth. Except for the four transformed lifeforms, the remainder of Qin Xiaotian's team quickly ran into the hole he had created. Feng Qiong, Zhou Ming, and the other two hunters prepared to cancel their transformations and followed suit. The transformation had drained them of much of their genetic energy, and their constant exposure to the poisonous mist was making them muddle-headed. Right after Feng Qiong and Zhou Ming made it into the burrowed hole, however, Zhao Ping and Jing Tsang, who had transformed into the Vine Asp and Crystal respectively, felt their transformations break involuntarily and their soul shards forcibly recalled. Neither of them had enough genetic energy to maintain their transformation any longer. Before the two of them could recover from the shock, the wave of scorpions engulfed them. Damn it! Hurry, we have to run. Feng Qiong and Zhou Ming had no choice but to collapse the entrance to the underground hole. Thus ended the fight between the Venombane scorpions and Qin Xiaotian's team. Both sides had suffered massive losses. The once idyllic glade had been covered in a layer of scorpion carcasses, along with the blood of 8 hunters. Qin Xiaotian's 13-person team had shrunk by more than half. Furthermore, the surviving hunters were all poisoned, and Zhang Lai had no intention of letting them leave safely. Qin Xiaotian had declared a blood feud between them, and neither of them would rest easily before the other was dead. However, Zhang Lai wasn't in much of a hurry. The poison in the scorpion's blood was slow acting, but its effects were particularly difficult to dispel. He was certain that Qin Xiaotian and the others wouldn't be able to find an antidote in the short term. After a few minutes, when the scorpions had finally retreated, Zhang Lai walked over to the 8 corpses and began collecting his spoils. None of their flesh or bones remained, and the soul shards in their soul space had naturally vanished with them. All Zhang Lai could recover were their weapons. A spear, 3 polearms, and 4 blades. The weapons of the 8 deceased hunters were quickly thrown into Zhang Lai's potbelly toad pouch. Subsequently, he activated his Gale Wolf Soul's Heart and Rippling Walk, then ran out through the cave, chasing after the remnants of Qin Xiaotian's team. The moment he returned to the waterfall, Zhang Lai discovered something amiss. There were no traces of upturned ground near the tunnel entrance or the lakeside. Even by the nearby forests, Zhang Lai couldn't see any fallen trees or disturbed soil. Given Qin Xiaotian's condition, he could hardly be so careful as to avoid detection. In that case, Zhang Lai turned around and ran back into the Venombane glade. Evidently, knowing that Zhang Lai would chase after him, Qin Xiaotian had burrowed deeper into the forest rather than out beyond the cave. Unfortunately for him, Zhang Lai was an experienced hunter, and saw through his trick immediately. Deep within the glade, by an upturned heap of soil, Qin Xiaotian, Wang Xiaohua, Fang Qiong, Zhou Ming, and another hunter slumped against the ground. At Qin Xiaotian's feet was all manner of empty potion bottles. Damn it, none of these antidotes are working. After swallowing another dose of antidote, Qin Xiaotian began to shout in frustration. His genetic energy was slowly being sapped away, and the extremities of his body were slowly falling into paralysis. Xiaotian, what do we do? What do we do? Are we going to die of poison? Wang Xiaohua trembled as she held back her tears. In the end, Wang Xiaohua was only a young woman. When faced with the prospect of death, how could she remain calm? Of course, the other hunters were much the same way. Hearing Wang Xiaohua's words, Fang Qiong, who had suffered the brunt of the scorpion's attack, squeezed his insensate palm. Clutching onto a forlorn hope, he asked, "Captain, could it be that the antidote just hasn't taken effect yet? All your antidotes are top-tier, after all. The apothecary you bought all these antidotes from surely wouldn't sell us fake potions, would they?" Zhou Ming suggested. Qin Xiaotian waved his arm in frustration. "No, these antidotes work fine. The poison is just too tricky to deal with." Fang Qiong couldn't help but groan. To think we were tricked by a weakling like him. Wang Xiaohua, it's all your fault. If not for you, Qin Xiaotian wouldn't be fighting against this fellow in the first place. You've killed everyone. Zhou Ming's despairing accusation made Qin Xiaotian glance thoughtfully at Wang Xiaohua. However, it was only one glance. After all, he understood quite well that he was the one who had brought them all to this juncture. On the other hand, Wang Xiaohua, indicted by Zhou Ming, suddenly shouted, "That's right. Zhang Lai. We just need to find him." While we were fighting, the poisonous mist spread all over the glade, but Zhang Lai wasn't affected. He must either have the antidote or know some way of avoiding the poison. "Xiaotian, we just need to go find Zhang Lai. As long as we promise him some resources, I'm sure he'll give us the antidote." The other hunter's eyes brightened, but then they looked toward her as though she were an idiot. "What's the matter? Are you all too prideful?" Wang Xiaohua asked, confused. This time, none of the other hunters bothered to look at her. She was a sheltered orchid in a greenhouse, and clearly didn't understand the true nature of the dimensional world. As she felt her body slowly seizing up, Wang Xiaohua began to cry. "Xiaotian, I'm begging you, can't we ask Zhang Lai for help? Xiaohua, you're too naive. We gain nothing from asking him except for revealing the fact that we've all been weakened. But you don't have to worry too much, given my cousin's reputation in the dimensional world, he might give us a shameful beating, but he wouldn't dare take our lives. As for the poison in our bodies, after circulating my genetic energy a few times, I've found that it only has paralytic properties. At worst, we'll be stiff for a few hours. The purple powder that we saw on that fellow should be the key to avoiding the scorpion's poison. Furthermore, the fact that we're now deep within the glade rather than out by the waterfall means that it'll take quite a while longer to find us. As long as we make it through the next few hours, we can still beat him." Qin Xiaotian was exceedingly patient with Wang Xiaohua, not only dissuading her from her inane decision, but also giving her hope to live. "Really? Xiaotian, this poison isn't lethal." Despite Qin Xiaotian's patient explanation, Wang Xiaohua still seemed quite doubtful, causing Fang Qiong and Zhou Ming to let out twin glares of impatience. They were about to mock her, while their mouths could still move, when they heard a chuckle from the distance. "Huh, of course it's true. Qin Xiaotian, it looks like you're not an idiot after all. In that case, shall we have a little talk?" Zhang Lai appeared from a distance. "Zhang Lai." Fang Qiong, Zhou Ming, and Wang Xiaohua all exclaimed in shock. Qin Xiaotian, on the other hand, lying on the ground with his four limbs all but paralyzed, knew that he'd lost. Rather than panic, however, he smiled coldly. "All right, you win. What do you want from me? Zhang Lai's face warped in greed. Soul shards, all the soul shards in your soul space. You're a little greedy, aren't you? You're sure you want my soul shards? Qin Xiaotian's simmering anger was reflected in his words. Zhang Lai retrieved the spear he had picked up from one of his teammates' carcasses, then pointed it at Qin Xiaotian. Are you threatening me? Consider it a warning. Most of my soul shards are from my cousin. How do you think he'll react when he finds that you've got them all? Qin Xiao, you mean? I'd like to spar with him if I get the chance. That reminds me, didn't you claim you were going to give me a beating? Zhang Lai's face was calm, but Qin Xiaotian could see the pale blue energy emanating from his body, as well as the spear pointed directly at his chest, its tip glinting. And even though he knew he had to remain calm, Qin Xiaotian shuddered. No, wait. I'll give you my soul shards, all of them. Chapter 15. Stealthy return. You are listening at novelfull.audio. It was clear that Zhang Lai was motivated by his greed, and Qin Xiaotian would certainly prefer bankruptcy to death. Angering him at this critical juncture would be a terribly unwise decision. In that case, he had no choice but to give in. A dozen soul shards, including the superior grade transformation type soul's heart he'd been eyeing earlier, ended up in Zhang Lai's hands. The dimensional world was a curious entity, with its own rules and will. A human, upon entering the dimensional world, would unlock a soul space granted by the will of the world. This soul space was where hunters could store their soul shards. Hunters' strength came from 4 sources: their framework, their soul shards, their gene fragments, and their genetic energy. Their gene fragments represented their strength and constitution, their framework, the nature and maximum capacity of their genetic energy, their techniques, different ways of unleashing that energy. Soul shards complemented and augmented a hunter's suite of techniques. To some extent, the quality of a hunter's soul shards dictated their maximum strength, and having an assortment of valuable soul shards was a hunter's greatest treasure. All hunters' soul spaces were protected by the will of the world, and no one else could steal a soul's heart from another hunter's soul space. Qin Xiaotian's soul shards would clearly be the cream of the crop. Most of his remaining soul shards were also of the exceedingly rare transformation type, and Zhang Lai had just received a veritable fortune. You truly are rich, young Master Qin. I'll accept your gift with gratitude. Zhang Lai affected a smarmy smile as he swiped Qin Xiaotian's soul shards. In his head, Qin Xiaotian thought to himself, shameless bastard. Of course, he didn't dare say so out loud. Zhang Lai, friend, now that I've given you these soul shards, won't you hand us the antidote? Zhang Lai roared with laughter. Didn't you say you would stop at nothing to kill me? I'm not sure I want a friend like you, Qin Xiaotian. Wang Xiaohua, you're up next. Qin Xiaotian bought his life with all his soul shards, what about you? Zhang Lai pointed the spear toward Wang Xiaohua. When she saw the glinting spearhead, she immediately panicked. Zhang Lai, I'm begging you, don't kill me. I'll give you everything I have. It was only now that Wang Xiaohua understood that the young man she had forsaken was no weakling at all, he was only biding his time. She very much regretted provoking him repeatedly just for a bit of face. Surprisingly, Zhang Lai was quite genial to her. In that case, hand over your soul shards. As for your points, we can discuss that once we're back in the settlement. Alright, here. Wang Xiaohua immediately offered her palm to him, and Zhang Lai took all of her soul shards with a careless swipe of his hand. Of course, compared to Qin Xiaotian, Wang Xiaohua's soul shards were far more inferior. Except for 1 or 2 mutated grade soul shards, the others were all relatively mundane. That didn't mean he wouldn't take them all, however. There were at least 100 settlements dotted all over the dimensional world, and soul shards were always in hot demand. The rest was easy. Fang Qiong, Zhou Ming, and the last remaining member of Qin Xiaotian's team all handed over their soul shards in turn, having watched their captain and Wang Xiaohua do so. Combined, Zhang Lai had obtained over 40 soul shards from Qin Xiaotian's party. Since the remaining 3 members of Qin Xiaotian's team were hunters that Qin Xiaotian had intended on supporting in earnest, their soul shards were far superior to those that Wang Xiaohua had. After collecting everyone's soul shards, Zhang Lai patted his hands and smiled. Zhang Lai, now that you've accepted all our soul shards, won't you give us the antidote? Qin Xiaotian asked carefully. His body had now been completely paralyzed, and even speaking was starting to get difficult. It felt far too uncomfortable to have his life be in someone else's hands, and he wanted to end this nightmarish scenario as quickly as he could. Right after he spoke, however, the other hunters heard a clean snick and saw a fountain of blood. Wang Xiaohua, Fang Qiong, and the others looked on in horror as Qin Xiaotian's head toppled from his body. Ah! Captain! You damned, Zhang Lai, you're not trust, Wang Xiaohua screamed again, and Fang Qiong and the others began to curse Zhang Lai, but Zhang Lai's blade had reached them before any of them could finish. When did I say I would spare any of you? Zhang Lai asked, almost rhetorically. The only hunter still alive was Wang Xiaohua. Of course, the reason Zhang Lai had kept her alive wasn't because he pitied her, but because he would need her to take the blame. After dealing with Qin Xiaotian and the others, Zhang Lai strode forward toward Qin Xiaohua's prone body. Don't kill me. Zhang Lai, I'm begging you, don't kill me. I'll do anything you ask me to. A sudden stink filled the air. In her extreme fear, Wang Xiaohua had involuntarily defecated. The scene in front of her eyes was simply too frightening. The hunter by her side had been Qin Xiaotian, scion of the branch of the Qin clan in Jiangdu, and Zhang Lai had killed him without even blinking an eye, as though he were simply squashing a bug. And all the other hunters beside her, their clans weren't as rich or influential, but still notable and powerful in their own right. How could Zhang Lai have killed all of them? And if he was daring enough to kill them, wouldn't he also kill her? Faced with the overwhelming prospect of death, Wang Xiaohua broke down. I'm so sorry. Please, it's all my fault, I shouldn't have left you, I shouldn't have looked down on you, I shouldn't have made trouble for you at your house. It's all my fault. Zhang Lai, I'm begging you. Please don't kill me. Ah, what's this? What happened to young Miss Wang, who commanded me to beg at the settlement gates for her favor? What, have you learned your mistake? Honestly, I don't care whether or not you've left me. I don't even care that you've been trying to glean information on my father, in hopes of securing his inheritance. I really can't be bothered to care about such matters, but this doesn't mean that I'm scared of you, or of the Wang clan. You shouldn't have repeatedly antagonized me or my sister, and you certainly shouldn't have brought Qin Xiaotian into this affair, damning you and the entire Wang clan. But don't worry, since I didn't kill you before, I'm not going to kill you now. Not only that, I'll even bring you back to the settlement, hale and hearty. Zhang Lai's tone was chillingly bright. Even as naive as Wang Xiaohua was, she knew that Zhang Lai surely didn't have good intentions in doing so, but could she refuse? Of course not. She had to hold on to any chance of survival. Really? You really won't kill me? Instead of replying, Zhang Lai pulled out a curiously large purple flower, then scattered its pollen over her prone body. As a refreshing scent wafted up her nose, Wang Xiaohua felt her paralysis fade. This soul bloom flower was a rare subsidiary ingredient that Zhang Lai had picked up while gathering ingredients for potion number 1. It was the pollen from this flower that had caused the venombane scorpions to ignore Zhang Lai's presence and served as an antidote against the mist formed from their poisonous blood. After storing his spoils, Zhang Lai instructed Wang Xiaohua not to run away after she recovered from her paralysis. Then, he headed back into the glade to harvest the rare herbs that grew within. He wasn't at all worried that Wang Xiaohua would escape, because he knew that she had neither the daring nor the capability. And given that he was planning to return Wang Xiaohua to the settlement, this venombane glade would soon be a well. Known location. As a result, he would have to harvest and hunt what he could now. The exoskeleton of these venom-bane scorpions were particularly useful, and could be used to brew a variety of medicines, potions, and poisons. Mutated.grade venom-bane. Scorpion soul shards was even more useful, so the glade would soon be packed to the brim with hunters. Zhang Lai spent the next 3 days in the venom-bane glade. Zhang Lai. A mortal life form framework. Foundation, LV Max, 9 Carp Transformation, First Form. Carp Techniques. Rippling Walk, Novice, 3. Wave Crescendo, Novice, Genes. Basic, 130, Mutated, 80, Superior, 10 Soul Shards. White Grub, Superior, Gale Wolf, Mutated, Blood Ant, Mutated, Pot-Bellied Toad, Mutated, Venom-Bane Scorpion, Mutated. The reason he had taken so long was both in order to harvest herbs and to hunt for a mutated.grade venom-bane. Scorpion souls hard. It was extremely difficult to find such venom-bane scorpions while they were stealthed, and if not for Zhang Lai's understanding of their habits and weaknesses, it would have taken even longer. As expected, Wang Xiaohua didn't even try to run away. All she did was bury her teammates' corpses. Back in the Black Steel settlement, outside the gates, a number of gamblers were glancing all around the landscape, searching for a certain hunter. It's been 3 whole days. Surely Qin Xiaotian and his team would be back by now. It's only been 3 days. Given Qin Xiaotian's skill, it wouldn't be unusual for his team to be out hunting for an entire month. That's right. After all, that Zhang Lai surely was nothing more than an interlude for someone like Qin Xiaotian. Even calling him an interlude is way too much. You couldn't have bet on him, could you? Of course not. What are the odds now? Something like 120.1 against him. What the crowd didn't realize was that, amidst their discussions, 2 stealthed hunters were passing by them and heading into the settlement. Of course, these 2 hunters were Zhang Lai and Wang Xiaohua. Chapter 16. You're free. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Chapter 16. You're free. Congratulations, Wang Xiaohua, you're free. The moment they entered the settlement, Zhang Lai whispered into Wang Xiaohua's ear. Subsequently, she felt the presence by her side vanish. Zhang Lai had disappeared. Wang Xiaohua was shocked. She couldn't believe that Zhang Lai would let her go so easily. Why? He hadn't hesitated to kill Qin Xiaotian and the others. Why would he let me go? Could he be interested in rekindling our relationship? Yes, that had to be the case. Otherwise, why would he leave me alive without even extorting me for my points? Zhang Lai's sudden departure left Wang Xiaohua, still stealthed, in deep thought. However, she was being so naive that Zhang Lai would have been in fits of laughter upon hearing her thoughts. Of course, while he didn't care about her thoughts, he had overheard what the crowds were saying outside the settlement. At the betting stand set up by the 3 major corporations, a mysterious black-clad man came to the counter and said, "I'm betting 30,000 points on Zhang Lai's safe return." His remarkable declaration sent ripples through the crowds. 30,000 points for Zhang Lai. Is this guy crazy? Some people clearly have too many points on their hands. Isn't that so? It's already the 3rd day of the hunt, and there's almost no chance for Zhang Lai by now. What a fool. The onlookers' taunts didn't affect the mysterious man at all. He slammed a card down on the counter and called out to the bookkeepers, "What's the matter? Aren't you going to accept my bet?" The bookkeeper sitting in front of the counter immediately smiled. "Of course we'll take the bet, why wouldn't we? The betting only closes at 5 p.m., and it's only 3 p.m. right now." The paperwork was handled rapidly, and the mysterious man quickly left after receiving his receipt. Only after he had vanished did the onlookers begin to murmur among themselves again. What an idiot. The 3 corporations got 30,000 points, just like that. Isn't that so? Not only that, he's even trying to act like a mysterious fellow with that get up. The crowd soon declared that black-clad man as the stupidest fool in the settlement. Just as the commotion had settled down, a rather handsome hunter stepped forward, gaze still hovering in the direction in which the mysterious man had left. He sauntered up to the counter. 10,000 points to that Jean Lai fellow. These words sparked another discussion among the crowd. Someone even shouted out the hunter's name. Isn't that Chu Feng? Chu Feng? Who's Chu Feng? The second-ranked hunter on the gene leaderboard, who else? What's going on? Why would someone like Chu Feng place a bet on Zhang Lai? Could he have received some news? Chu Feng's action immediately caused a few hunters to palm their point cards, thinking about whether or not to make the same bet he did. Friends, I haven't heard anything of the sort. I'm simply placing this bet on a whim. I don't care if you mimic me, but don't hold me responsible if you lose. Chu Feng's explanation caused much of the crowd, eager to continue betting, to shrink back. Chu Feng had the money and points to spare, after all, but they didn't. If other hunters were to mimic his bet, that was a decision they had to make for themselves. The moment Chu Feng left, however, the bookkeepers from the three corporations, who had been smiling after the mysterious black-clad man's departure, suddenly grew stern and began packing up. The gamblers lounging around the stand immediately noticed what was going on. What's the matter? Didn't you claim you were going to allow bets until 5 p.m.? Why are you all packing up now? That's right, what's going on? This bet's recognized by the artificial intelligence presiding over the Blacksteel settlement, so you won't be able to run away so easily. The head bookkeeper strode out from behind the stand and explained politely, don't worry, we're from the three corporations. We certainly won't be running away. As for why we're halting bets so early on, it's simply what our superiors told us. We're just low-level workers, and we don't know what's going on either. I suspect it's simply a matter of risk. There are already tens of millions of points in the betting pool, after all. His words and polite attitude barely persuaded the gamblers to let them pass. But before they could leave, a particularly domineering voice came from within the crowd. Oh! Who's going to leave before I, Qin Xiao, have made my bet? Qin Xiao strode forth in an imposing suit of jet-black armor. With one hand, he pressed down on the table the bookkeepers were trying to pack up, retrieved his point card, and said, loud enough for all to hear, I know exactly how capable my cousin is. I'll bet 300,000 points that the other dumb bastard who roused his ire won't make it back alive. Young Master Qin, this isn't something I have the authority to handle, so shut your damn mouth. I know exactly how much profit the three corporations have made in this settlement over the past few years. Give me a receipt for this bet, or I won't let you out of the settlement. What bookkeeper would refuse the bet now? Their lives were more important, after all, and they were only low-level workers. Qin Xiao, you're even bullying these white-collar workers now. As Qin Xiao grabbed the receipt he was handed, a clear, flute-like voice rang out from the crowd. Yun Bing, the corporations themselves claimed that they'd halt the betting at 5 p.m. It's not my fault that they're going back on their word. Why don't you come over and make a bet too? It's all thanks to our Xiao Tian that we're getting such an easy way to make more points. Faced with Yun Bing, first on the gene leaderboard, Qin Xiao dropped his dominating attitude, but not his boastful tone. His prideful posturing made Yun Bing want to laugh. As she stepped up to the counter, Yun Bing said, if I can still make a bet, I'll bet 10,000 points that the fellow facing off against Qin Xiaotian will make it back alive. Her words caused the crowd to erupt in commotion. The top player on the gene leaderboard herself had made a bet, and it was even for the underdog. Of course, everyone could tell that she had only done so to go against Qin Xiao, not because she had any hidden information of her own. And given her status as the top hunter of the Blacksteel settlement, despite her polite attitude, the head bookkeeper certainly didn't dare to offend her and quickly handed her a receipt back. Haha! Yun Bing, I love stubborn women like you. Qin Zhao's boisterous behavior clearly revealed his interest in Yun Bing, but she didn't get upset. Instead, throughout the entire process, she spared him not a single glance. After claiming her receipt, she turned around and vanished like fog on a sunny day. Keep pretending to be all distant, wench. I'll make you regret it sooner or later. Yun Bing's insouciance infuriated Qin Zhao, but what could he do about it? Her own strength, her clan's power, and even her team's capabilities all eclipsed his. He might shoot his mouth off from time to time, but he wouldn't offend her needlessly. Similarly, while Yun Bing might ignore him, she wouldn't make a big fuss about the matter. After Yun Bing left, Qin Zhao also quickly disappeared. But their departure didn't mark the end of the betting. Many hunters near the top of the leaderboard trickled toward the betting stand, ready to make their bets after the top 2 hunters had done so. Of course, most of them favored Qin Xiaotian, given what Qin Zhao himself had said. Nevertheless, there were a few gamblers who were willing to take the risk for the minuscule chance of a jackpot. It took another dozen minutes before the bookkeepers were finally able to head out. The curtains to the entire fiasco were about to draw to a close. At that point, there should have been a lull before the final results of the bet were established. However, the gamblers in the crowd were set abuzz not 10 minutes later by a piece of momentous news. The female hunter who had spawned this entire conflict, Wang Xiaohua, had returned. Of course, that wasn't the most salient point. More importantly, she had returned alone. Not Qin Xiaotian, not his team, not even Zhang Lai, just Wang Xiaohua. The gamblers immediately swarmed her, wanting to discover the outcome of the bet. However, before most people could reach her, guards sent by the Black Steel Settlement's artificial intelligence appeared to wall her off. By that point, the settlement gates were swarming with people. Only with the appearance of the guards did the gathered hunters calm down. They could fight all they wanted outside the settlement grounds, but within the settlement, the guards could not be overcome. As for Wang Xiaohua, under the protection of the settlement guards, she was given a room at the highest class inn in the settlement, the Black Steel Inn, whose proprietor was the artificial intelligence itself. Subsequently, the artificial intelligence transmitted a message to the gathered hunters on her behalf. She was beleaguered by the attention and her recent experiences, and she needed some time to herself to process what had happened. At 8 p.m., the artificial intelligence would announce the outcome of the bet. It was only then that Wang Xiaohua finally understood what Zhang Lai had in mind for her. Chapter 17. The show begins. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Oh, Wang Xiaohua understood it all now. The reason Zhang Lai had spared her wasn't because he pitied her, but because he was planning to shrug the blame for his murders onto her. Qin Xiaotian and the others had died, but she was still alive, and she would be held responsible. There were only 2 survivors of the entire ordeal. One was her, and the other was Zhang Lai. Given their past relationship, it was conceivable that others would think that they were working together. But this realization had come too late. Everyone knew that she was still alive, so she had become the prime suspect. In fact, if she were to reveal the truth immediately, the matter might have resolved itself. Unfortunately, Wang Xiaohua was so scared that no one would believe her that she ended up doing nothing, and her inaction was damning. Once things dragged out, once it seemed as though Wang Xiaohua were deliberately hiding her involvement in Qin Xiaotian's disappearance, the entire Wang clan would perish with her. In a regular inn, Zhang Lai, dressed all in black, was happily writing an article, What Really Happened at the Venombane Glade. From the perspective of an onlooker, Zhang Lai carefully detailed and twisted the truth of the matter. According to him, Wang Xiaohua and Zhang Lai were acting in cahoots to steal all the soul shards from Qin Xiaotian's team, as well as their lives. Even more maliciously, Zhang Lai was waiting for Wang Xiaohua to speak up and take the first step toward her ruin before revealing his truth. Having prepared the article, Zhang Lai left the Black Steel Settlement again, returning to the Venombane Glade to set up the scene of the crime. At 8 p.m., a huge crowd had gathered outside the Black Steel Inn. The gamblers who had taken part in the bet were all waiting to discover the outcome of the battle, or the juiciest, freshest gossip. Shockingly, it was a robot who emerged out onto the inn's third floor balcony, not Wang Xiaohua. Miss Wang Xiaohua has requested that I, the artificial intelligence serving the Black Steel settlement, reveal the final outcome of the bet. The winner, Zhang Lai. Except for Miss Wang Xiaohua, Qin Xiaotian's entire team perished. The outcome of this bet is now official, and those winners can now redeem their receipts for points online. For a brief moment, the deep, synthetic voice lulled the entire Black Steel settlement into silence. A mere fraction of a second later, however, the crowd erupted in shock. How could Qin Xiaotian have lost? His entire team, too. How was this possible? No, I don't believe this. She has to be lying. How could Qin Xiaotian lose, and with his entire team, at that? That's impossible. That's right, it's impossible. Qin Xiaotian is Qin Zhao's cousin. After all, how could someone like him fail to beat a hunter at the bottom of the gene leaderboard? Where's Wang Xiaohua? Why hasn't she revealed herself? Preposterous, I say. Wang Xiaohua, what really happened? You'd better tell us the truth. Clearly, this outcome was unacceptable to a majority of the crowd. After all, at least 90% of the crowd had staked a heavy bet on Qin Xiaotian. They would suffer heavy losses if Qin Xiaotian had actually lost. As for the artificial intelligence, well, it didn't much care for the dismay of the crowd. If the crowd became violent, it would be dispersed, and any troublemakers would be arrested. The artificial intelligence would certainly reveal the impartial truth. And since it claimed that Zhang Lai had won, then Qin Xiaotian had to have been defeated, and killed. Only after realizing that inconvenient truth did the dejected gamblers finally leave. However, just because they had dispersed didn't mean that they would take their loss lying down. No, they had to uncover the truth of the matter. In every bet, there would be winners and losers. Even though Zhang Lai was a dark horse, there would still be some gamblers willing to bet on him. At that moment, they were overjoyed. The odds were 120.1 in their favor. They had earned their points back 100-fold. Even the strongest hunters like Yunbing and Chu Feng were pleasantly surprised by their gains. After all, given such odds, a 10,000-point bet would give them 1.2 million points back. No matter how much wealth they had, 1.2 million points was a considerable amount of points. As a result, both of them gained a deep interest in Zhang Lai, whom they hadn't ever seen in person. Of course, at the same time, Qin Xiao was flying into a blind rage. On the fifth-floor suite in the Black Steel Inn, with a huge boom, the table in front of Qin Xiao exploded into tiny shards. Find out exactly where that Wang Xiaohua is. I want to see her immediately. Qin Xiao was howling at the door to his room like a ferocious beast. Yes, Captain. Seeing how enraged their captain was, Qin Zhao's team immediately rushed off to find Wang Xiaohua. The reason that Qin Xiao hadn't approached her initially was because he thought Qin Xiaotian was trying to drum up attention, not that he had lost. How could he have lost? Xiaotian was dead, and the only survivor was Wang Xiaohua. He'd bet 300,000 points, 90% of his total wealth, and it was all gone now. His subordinates were rather capable hunters in their own right, and they quickly brought back the news that Qin Xiao wanted to hear. Wang Xiaohua was in room 303 of this very inn, and was apparently meeting with the head of the three great corporations at the moment. The three corporations. Qin Xiao was so furious that he couldn't sit still. In room 303 of the Black Steel Inn, three middle-aged men were sitting in the rather small living room. Opposite them, Wang Xiaohua was seated by the corner of a couch, her face pale, surrounded on either side by two guards. She was panicking because she now clearly understood the ramifications of her safe return. As a result, she had even spent her precious points to hire two guards for protection. Wang Xiaohua, I think you should understand your predicament quite well. To be frank, you're the only one who can save yourself now. Tell us everything that you saw and heard, starting from the moment you left the settlement gates. Otherwise, I can assure you that both you and your clan will be crushed by morning." The head of one corporation was threatening and scaring Wang Xiaohua in order to learn about exactly what had happened. The other two heads were also in rare agreement. No matter the outcome of the bet, the three corporations would still make a tidy profit. The reason they were here to see Wang Xiaohua was because the outcome was too shocking even for them. Furthermore, as merchants, they could sense an opportunity brewing. Wang Xiaohua gulped down some saliva, not knowing where to begin. Ding! Just then, the doorbell rang. "Zhou Qian, Li Jin, Zhao Jia, open up. Otherwise, I'll kill any team from your corporations the moment I encounter them. I'm Xiaotian's cousin, and I demand to know the truth immediately. Open up." Outside room 303, Qin Zhao's booming voice struck the hearts of the hunters inside like a bolt of lightning. If this weren't the Black Steel Inn, and if there weren't a horde of gamblers unable to accept their loss in the corridor with him, Qin Zhao would have broken down the door with a kick. The three heads eyed each other, and one of them finally turned to a subordinate. As the door opened, the furious Qin Zhao stomped inside. His subordinate stayed outside to guard the door. Qin Zhao eyed the two guards by Wang Xiaohua's side, then dragged a stool over and went to sit by the three heads. "Wang Xiaohua, you're with my cousin Xiaotian, so I won't make things difficult for you. But you have to explain to me exactly what happened on this trip. How did Qin Xiaotian and his team die, all except for you? If you don't tell me what happened, I'll have you, and all the rest of the Wang clan, die alongside him." Such was Qin Zhao's rage that this outburst was the result of him trying to restrain himself. Wang Xiaohua knew then that she wouldn't be able to keep her experience a secret. In truth, she was waiting for Qin Zhao to arrive. After all, as long as she were able to convince Qin Zhao of the truth, then she would be absolved of any suspicion. After clearing her throat, Wang Xiaohua began, "We were all set up by Zhang Lai. That day, after leaving the settlement, we chased him all the way to the moonlit pond. There, he led us through a tunnel behind the waterfall into an idyllic glade. Everything in the glade was tinged purple, and the moment we entered, we found quite a number of rare herbs. However, our joy and happiness were short-lived. We had fallen right into his trap. We were attacked by these so-called venom-bane scorpions, most of which were regular grade, but they swarmed us rapidly in huge droves. Worse, they seemed to have a stealth ability and a deadly poison. Zhang Lai had previously doused himself in soul bloom pollen, which would allow him to avoid the scorpions. Xiaotian led us into a battle with the scorpions, but after losing half our members, he transformed into a golden pangolin and burrowed a hole through which we could escape. However, by that time, we had all fallen prey to the scorpion's slow-acting poison. Our bodies were slowly becoming paralyzed, so Xiaotian brought us deeper into the glade instead, intending for us to recover before heading off. But even though Xiaotian used all sorts of antidotes, he wasn't able to cure the paralysis at all. We were discovered by Zhang Lai, who tricked us into handing over our soul shards before killing us all. The only survivor he left was me. Qin Zhao, Zhang Lai's a sly and malicious fellow, and he's been pretending to be weak all along. We've all been tricked by him, all of us hunters in the Black Steel settlement. You have to avenge Xiaotian and his team." In the end, Wang Xiaohua's words were drowned out by a fit of desolate sobs. Chapter 18. The Trap Titans. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Despite her cries, none of the four people before her showed any sign of pity, especially Qin Zhao, who immediately questioned, "Why would he keep you alive, then? Shouldn't this Zhang Lai fellow have killed you too? Why would he leave you alive? Tell me, why?" Hearing Qin Zhao's accusation, and seeing the skeptical glances from the three corporation heads, Wang Xiaohua clearly sensed matters taking a turn for the worse. "Qin Zhao, it's easy. He kept me alive so all of you would suspect me, to have me take the blame for his murder. You, a scapegoat. No matter who this hunter is, everyone in the Black Steel settlement would know my name. Wouldn't he know that, the moment Xiao Tian died, he would be a dead man walking? What a foolish notion. Is he a fool, or is he treating us like fools? And if this were the case, where's this Zhang Lai now? Qin Shao was brash and arrogant, and his thoughts reflected that belief. He believed that anyone who had roused his ire within the Black Steel settlement had no recourse but to wait for him to kill them. Furthermore, he believed that, if Zhang Lai truly were capable of killing Qin Shaotian, then he wouldn't try to play such an obvious trick on him. Wang Xiaohua was so agitated that she began to cry again. Qin Shao, Zhang Lai left on his own the moment he brought me back to the settlement. I'm sure he's still hiding somewhere. Please, you have to believe me. I swear that I'm telling nothing but the truth. If you don't believe me, you can send your subordinates out to the Venombane Glade to have a look. Oh, I will. At the very least, Xiao Tian needs a proper burial. Recalling how close she was to Qin Shaotian, Qin Shao suddenly felt less skeptical about her claims. After all, unless Wang Xiaohua was a fool, she would have no reason to collude with Zhang Lai. He would have to see the scene of the crime for himself. He believed that, as long as he was there, he would easily figure out the truth. Qin Shao, the Venombane Glade isn't very large, and it's a pretty easy place to find. Could I be allowed to remain here? After reaching the glade, go straight for about 1 kilometer. There, you'll be able to see the large hole out of which Xiao Tian tunneled, and I buried his body inside. You'll need to start by finding a soulbloom flower. With its pollen, you can enter the glade. Zhang Lai mentioned that it isn't endemic to the Venombane Glade, so you shouldn't have a hard time finding one. Wang Xiaohua could discern that Qin Shao didn't completely believe her, so she didn't dare to leave the settlement with him. After all, he was notorious for his bad temper. If there were to be some unforeseen circumstance, she could well lose her life at his hands. Wang Xiaohua looked timidly and pleadingly at Qin Shao. Don't worry, Wang Xiaohua, I won't do anything to you until the truth is clear. Are you sure you don't want to go with me? This is your one chance at proving your innocence. Qin Shao narrowed his eyes, revealing a sudden killing intent. Wang Xiaohua began to sob, Please, Qin Shao, don't force me to go. It's a very easy place to find, and once you find it, you'll surely understand that I'm innocent. Qin Shao leaned closer to Wang Xiaohua, until his eyes were directly facing hers. You'd better not let me find out that you were part of this, or your entire clan will die with you. He glanced toward her 2 guardians, glared at her, and then got up to leave. The 3 corporation heads did the same. In truth, they were now all very relieved that they had come to hear Wang Xiaohua's story. Ignoring the details of Qin Xiaotian's death, they had learned about this mysterious Venombane Glade, apparently filled with a bounty of riches. The location hadn't yet been developed, which meant an unlimited set of possibilities for turning it into a goldmine. The 4 men each rushed toward the inn's exit. Right before stepping outside, however, Qin Shao commanded, Listen up, you 3. This Venombane Glade's something that my Xiao Tian gave his life for, so don't you think about trying to steal it away. The 3 corporation heads, Zhou Qian, Li Jin, and Zhao Jia, couldn't help letting out a faint mocking smile at his words. Zhou Qian even murmured, Qin Shao, do you really think that you have the capability to do that? Even if all 4 of us were to work together, we wouldn't be able to monopolize the location. Do you understand what I'm saying? He left before Qin Shao could reply, and the other 2 corporation leaders shook their heads and followed suit, leaving Qin Shao standing red-faced in the hotel lobby. It took him a moment's thought to understand what they were saying. Given the unusual circumstances, their every movement would be telegraphed and paid attention to. It would be impossible for them to secretly develop the location, the most they could do would be to develop it jointly. He rushed out of the lobby, trailing behind the 3 corporation heads. By the time Qin Shao and his team arrived at the moonlit pond, those teams sponsored by the three corporations were already present. Not only that, Yun Bing's team and Chu Feng's team were also at the scene. Everyone gathered underneath the waterfall at the moonlit pond. Qin Xiao glared at Zhou Qian, Li Jin, and Zhao Jia. However, the three of them each ignored his presence. In truth, they had long since gotten used to Qin Zhao's brash behavior, and his threats meant nothing to them. The three corporations would, in order to avoid trouble, refrain from antagonizing him as much as possible, but if there were sufficient profit to be gained, they really didn't have much to fear from the Qin clan. Qin Xiao, aren't you greedy? You want to have everything for yourself. It's not possible for you to develop the location alone, so let's have all 6 of us enter together. Chu Feng was the first to speak up. He spoke in a relaxed fashion, but his eyes showed no intention of giving in if Qin Xiao were to decline. Yun Bing, standing not far away, didn't speak up, but her expression made it apparent that she felt the same way. Damn the 3 corporations, Qin Xiao cursed inwardly. To Chu Feng, he said, you all make it sound so trivial, but Xiao Tian died for this place. No matter what, my team has to be the first to enter, or none of us will. The other 5 teams all traded glances among themselves. Then, Yun Bing stepped forward. Since you clearly want to be cannon fodder, we'll let you head in first. She was likely the only hunter in the entire settlement who dared to call Qin Xiao cannon fodder. Against Yun Bing, it was meaningless to talk back. Ready the soul bloom pollen. We're heading in. With Qin Zhao's loud roar, his subordinates immediately doused themselves with soul bloom pollen and rushed through the waterfall. Just as the elites of the Black Steel settlement were exploring the Venombane glade, however, another shock rumbled through the Black Steel settlement. A horde of hunters were heading straight for the Venombane glade, prompted by an anonymous thread in the Black Steel settlement's forum. The author of the thread had detailed precisely where this Venombane glade was, as well as what he had noticed playing out within the glade. Apparently, while he was hunting near the moonlit pond, he noticed the chase between Zhang Lai and Qin Xiaotian's team, and he had trailed them stealthily. According to him, he followed them into an idyllic glade, where he saw Qin Xiaotian fighting against a horde of scorpions. He had hidden up a tree and, later, fell prey to the scorpion's paralytic poison. It was this paralysis that had caused him to witness the truth behind Qin Xiaotian's death, how Zhang Lai and Wang Xiaohua had plotted together to destroy Qin Xiaotian and the rest of his team. By luring them within the glade, Zhang Lai induced the scorpions to attack Qin Xiaotian's team, sapping them of strength and energy. Then, with Wang Xiaohua's help, he tricked Qin Xiaotian's team into giving up their soul shards. Finally, the two of them split their ill-gotten spoils and planned out how to dodge responsibility for the deaths of Qin Xiaotian and his team. The thread vilified both Zhang Lai and Wang Xiaohua, and immediately caused the penniless gamblers, who had staked everything on Qin Xiaotian, and who hadn't believed that Zhang Lai had been able to kill them all with his own strength, to go berserk. No wonder Qin Xiaotian had lost despite his overwhelming numerical and genetic advantage. The Black Steel Inn, in which Wang Xiaohua was residing, was quickly swarmed with all sorts of hunters, but even this wasn't the end of the story. The other culprit, Zhang Lai, had himself made a thread on the forum. According to Zhang Lai, Wang Xiaohua had been an untrustworthy ally. Not only had she not given him his fair share of soul shards, she had even shrugged off all the blame for the entire affair. He promised that he had no intention of killing Qin Xiaotian, he had only wanted to live, and Wang Xiaohua was the one who had plotted the murder. The anonymous thread agreed with Zhang Lai's self-indictment, and Wang Xiaohua's traitorous behavior had been all but confirmed in a few short minutes. Subsequently, someone noticed that Qin Xiaotian's golden pangolin soul's heart had been listed on the trading post by an anonymous seller. Furthermore, even his subordinate soul shards had appeared as well. All these soul shards were listed anonymously and slated to be auctioned off. The entire settlement was in an uproar. At this point, Wang Xiaohua realized that Zhang Lai was trying to shift the blame onto her, and she immediately made her own thread to clear her name. But given her naivete, how could she beat Zhang Lai in a verbal battle? Her name became smeared in a matter of minutes, and descriptions of what she did grew darker and bleaker. In the end, Wang Xiaohua could only focus on one key point: the location of Qin Xiaotian and his team's corpses in the Venombane glade. Afterwards, she stayed cooped up in her room in the Black Steel Inn, not daring to leave, or even to post on the forum. But even so, Wang Xiaohua's name had become irrevocably tarnished. After all, Zhang Lai was allegedly just trying to live. On the other hand, Wang Xiaohua had been the one clamoring for the death of Qin Xiaotian and his team. Someone like her, even in the ruthless dimensional world, would be scorned and despised. Worst of all, what Wang Xiaohua didn't know was that the key evidence she was counting on, the location of Qin Xiaotian's corpse, would be what eventually doomed her and her clan. Chapter 19. Superior, Grade Lifeform. You are listening at novelfull.audio. The moonlit night submerged the entire Venombane glade in an aura of mystery. However, this mysterious glade was now packed to the brim with hunters. The Yun, Chu, Qin, Zhou, Li, and Zhao clans had poured all their elites into this expedition, brightening the glade with hundreds of lanterns and conjured flames. Their bodies were all covered in a generous quantity of soulbloom pollen, so despite all the commotion, they weren't attacked by the Venombane scorpions. As the elites of the Black Steel settlement, they had noticed the stealth Venombane scorpions surrounding them almost instantaneously. On the rock walls, in the earth, these Venombane scorpions seemed to be omnipresent within the glade. The cave tunnel that they had passed through seemed to be their lair. However, because of the soulbloom pollen, the scorpions ignored them all. As a result, before the hunters attacked the scorpions wouldn't attack them of their own accord. Although they had learned a little about the area from Wang Xiaohua, they forged on cautiously. Even Qin Xiao, brash and boisterous, had become extremely careful upon exploring the glade. Nighttime in the dimensional world was filled with danger. As an experienced hunter, Qin Xiao certainly wouldn't let his guard down. After passing into the Venombane glade, the hunters found that the glade really wasn't all that large, and there were only a very limited quantity of valuable herbs. Even after exploring the entire glade, no one discovered any other lifeforms. Although the glade was filled with spiritual herbs, they were all relatively common varieties, and most had clearly been harvested already. The gathered hunters clearly didn't think much of the remaining herbs. In that case, the most valuable objects they could hope to find in the glade would be immutated. Or superior. Grade Venombane. Scorpion Soul's Heart. The fight that had taken place had left a fair bit of evidence that the hunters were able to make out. Although there were only a few marks left on the ground by the tunnel exit, it was clear that a fight had taken place. Qin Xiao stopped by a gigantic mound of earth, frowning. According to Wang Xiaohua, this was where Qin Xiaotian had been buried. Qin Xiaotian had revered his older cousin Qin Xiao, and Qin Xiao had regarded his cousin highly as well. How could he have died so suddenly? My condolences, Qin Xiao, Zhou Qian spoke up, his face a blank mask. Li Jin and Zhao Jia echoed the sentiment, but their words seemed insincere, as though steeped in vicious schadenfreude. Chu Feng clucked his tongue. How pitiful, for someone like Qin Xiaotian to be buried here. Qin Xiao, I told you your cousin was a weakling, didn't I? You didn't believe me, and according to Yun Bing, you bet 300,000 points on him. Surely even you can't afford to squander your wealth like that. I suppose you'll want to retrieve his corpse and bring it back to Earth. We'll leave you to it, then. Chu Feng's words turned Qin Xiao's face an angry purple. Qin Xiao was the most arrogant hunter of the top 3 hunters on the gene leaderboard, and that attitude was something he had embraced on a day-to-day basis. Even if Yun Bing and Chu Feng were slightly stronger than he was, he had never feared either of them. When had the arrogant Qin Xiao suffered such humiliation? He didn't even know how to repudiate Chu Feng's words. After all, Chu Feng was right, no matter how much he didn't want to admit it. As a scion of the Qin clan, Qin Xiaotian, whose mutated gene fragments were at capacity, and who had brought his entire team with him, how could he have lost to someone like Zhang Lai, well known to be at the bottom of the gene leaderboard? How shameful! How abominably shameful! It was a rare opportunity for Chu Feng to jibe at his old rival. Leaving Qin Shao to grieve, he signaled his elites to head toward the cave entrance. As Chu Feng left, Yunbing followed suit. She wasn't on good terms with Qin Shao either. Qin Shao, what Chu Feng said was harsh, but not unreasonable. Take your cousin's corpse and give him a burial back on Earth. She turned to leave with her team. The three corporation heads, Zhou, Li, and Zhao, naturally couldn't stand still after seeing both Chu Feng and Yunbing going into the distance. They glanced at each other, waved a hasty goodbye to Qin Shao, and hurried to the cave. After having explored the glade, they now knew what was most valuable inside. It was very late at night, and the gathered hunters intended to finish their work quickly before heading back to the settlement. As he glanced at the mound by his feet, as well as the disappearing hunters from the other 5 clans, Qin Shao began to smile. Qin Feng, stay here with a few hunters and dig out Xiaotian's corpse. Everyone else, head to the entrance with me. Xiaotian's lost us a lot of money and face, and we'll have to hunt down whatever superior-grade lifeforms are around here to make up for the loss. The procession of hunters headed to the entrance to the tunnel and began slaughtering the venom-bane scorpions in earnest. Yes, a slaughter. After all, the hunters present were the elites of the Black Steel settlement, and even the weakest among them had capped out his mutated gene capacity and possessed at least a dozen superior gene fragments. The venom-bane scorpions had no effective means of attacking them with anything but their poison. Although they swarmed the hunters, just as they did with Qin Xiaotian's team, they weren't able to harm the hunters at all. The hunters' genetic techniques slaughtered horde after horde of scorpions. Such endless slaughter would quickly generate soul shards, regardless of how rare they otherwise were. As Yunbing lightly waved her blade, wreathed in a curious white mist, a stealth mutated grade venom-bane scorpion was split in half. A thumb-sized purplish-black soul's heart began to form over the scorpion's carcass. A mutated grade soul's heart. Yunbing's face lit up. After so much effort, she'd finally obtained one. The next moment, as she quickly absorbed it into her soul space and activated it, her body turned translucent, then transparent. Chu Feng and the others immediately noticed the transformation. Such a useful soul's heart made the gathered hunters quite envious. They earnestly slaughtered the scorpions skittering toward them, hoping for that rare treasure. Arg! As more and more soul shards began to drop and the hunters were becoming complacent given their accumulated spoils, a hunter suddenly cried out in pain. The shout had emanated from a member of the Chu clan. Some attack had drilled a hole through the unlucky hunter's forehead, and he slumped to the ground amidst a flurry of commotion. Be careful, there's a superior-grade life form around, a superior-grade venom-bane scorpion, a hunter to his side shouted, having seen something flash by. Chu Feng's eyes brightened. Quick, surround it. A superior-grade life form. To think that a superior-grade venom-bane scorpion was in their midst. After all, Chu Feng and the others had long since maxed out their mutated gene capacity, and the only reason they were still here, without having advanced to the second realm of the dimensional world, was because they were waiting to fill their superior gene capacity as well. And although superior-grade lifeforms were prevalent in the dimensional world, they were quite rare within hundreds of kilometers from the Black Steel settlement. Furthermore, killing just one superior-grade life form and consuming its flesh would usually only provide between 1 to 10 superior gene fragments. To reach the limit of 100 superior gene fragments would require a dozen or more such life forms, each of a different type. Given how dangerous it was to go too far beyond the settlement, the difficulty of filling their superior gene capacity was obvious. How could Chu Feng not be excited to encounter a superior-grade life form while surrounded by his elites? With a burst of wind, he immediately appeared before his fallen subordinate. At the same time, his elites had begun blockading the area. For walls of wind, like heavy curtains, separated the Chu team from the outside world. Within the enclosed space, several hunters whose framework was geared toward detection began spreading out and searching for the superior-grade life form. It's there. Ah, it's moving so quickly. By the southeastern corner of the enclosure, the orb of water that a youth was holding up suddenly began to ripple. The moment he spoke, several beams of genetic energy shot toward where he was pointing. The revealed crystalline scorpion jumped up, evaded all the attacks, and vanished out of sight once more. The whispering wind. Amidst the commotion, Chu Feng closed his eyes, stilled his body, and began emanating waves of genetic energy, rippling as they interacted with the solid objects around him. "I've found you." Moments later, his eyes shot open, and he struck toward the eastern wind wall. His sword, glowing blue, traced out an electric arc as he struck at the skittering scorpion, only to have his attack blocked by its stinger with a resounding metallic clash. Immediately after countering the blow, the scorpion vanished from sight again. Superior-grade lifeforms possessed a significant level of intelligence, and the venom-bane scorpion behaved much like a skilled assassin. If its blow were to miss, it would immediately hide in stealth. Under normal circumstances, it certainly wouldn't fight head-on with its target. However, Chu Feng wasn't such an easy opponent to mislead. Wreaths of wind surrounded him, and it seemed as though he could sense the currents of movement all around. Despite how quickly the superior-grade scorpion moved, Chu Feng seemed to be able to predict its location and strike with his blade. However, all his attacks were either blocked or knocked aside by the tip of the scorpion's stinger. Although Chu Feng was unable to hurt the scorpion, he had managed to trap it. L.RG At this point, the other hunters in the cave had all reacted to what was going on. Chu Feng's team immediately joined in the fight, trying to corral the scorpion so that Chu Feng could land the finishing blow. However, just as Chu Feng's team was doing so, outside the walls of wind, the red-eyed Qin Shao was stalking toward the scorpion as well. Chapter 20. Violent confrontation. You are listening at novelfull.audio. Thunder God's Wrath. With a yell, Qin Zhao's polearm blazed with lightning, frying countless scorpions ahead of him. During the slaughter, because Qin Zhao had been the last to reach the cave entrance, all the best positions had been taken, and his luck was unusually bad. He had only killed a few mutated-grade venom-bane scorpions, let alone a superior-grade one, and had only managed to obtain a few regular-grade soul shards. As a result, when he saw this superior-grade scorpion, he hurried over with his team. Of course, he didn't attack yet. In the dimensional world, it was the hunter or team who scored the last hit on a life form that would be rewarded with its spoils, its flesh, with its associated gene fragments, and its soul's heart, if one were to condense. Superior-grade lifeforms, as the strongest grade of lifeforms in the first realm of the dimensional world, possessed significant vitality and constitution, and wouldn't be so easily killed. Qin Shao was waiting for this superior-grade scorpion to enter its death throes. Chu Lan, watch Qin Shao carefully for me. If he gets within 20 meters, attack him. Of course, as his old rival, Chu Feng knew what Qin Shao was thinking. Almost as soon as Qin Shao began moving closer, he murmured a few words to a female hunter by his side. Yes, Chu Feng. She, along with two of her subordinates, stopped chasing after the superior-grade scorpion and went to waylay Qin Feng instead. In truth, Chu Feng was hiding his true power as well. He displayed neither his best techniques nor his most useful soul shards. The Void Cup, hosted once every 5 years, was right about to occur, and it made sense to hide as much of his strength as he could. Furthermore, he knew quite well that Qin Shao wasn't the only one eyeing this superior-grade life form. Yun Bing's team, as well as those of the 3 corporation heads, had all drawn closer. He certainly didn't want to waste his efforts in vain. As he commanded his subordinates to increase the thickness of the wind walls, he activated an illusion-type soul's heart to hide what was happening in the enclosed area from the outside. Then, he began whittling down the scorpion's health with only his hurricane blade, and the whispering wind. The curious sight caused a certain hunter, watching from a fair distance away, to begin smirking. He was clad in black, hooded, and stealthed, and it was impossible to make out his features. As the fight continued within the rock cave, the black-clad man scattered an acid-green powder into the waterfall. Clearly, he was hoping to cause a commotion. Chu Feng was still patiently fighting the scorpion, but his opponent was getting much more fed up. Clang! His blade again struck the superior-grade scorpion's stinger, and its fury was palpable. Indeed, the venom-bane scorpion was completely enraged. It had been trapped within this enclosed region and persistently attacked by an annoying foe. Suddenly, it expelled a haze of poisonous mist and made its move. A violet flash suddenly blazed by Chu Feng's nose, causing his back to erupt in cold sweat. What was that? It was way too fast. So fast that he had caught only the barest hint of motion, so fast that he, despite all his gene fragments, couldn't respond in time. Chu Feng hadn't even been able to see the mechanism behind the scorpion's attack by the time the violet flash reached his eyes. The only reason he was able to avoid it was because of his body's instinctive response. However, just because he could do so didn't mean his subordinates could. One of them, struck by the violet flash, had his head suddenly rot and fall off his neck, his skull turning to powder as it struck the ground. The entire process had happened within 3 seconds, and no blood or brain matter was visible anywhere. His head had simply decayed away, and his skull had crumbled away to a fine powder. What horrifying poison! Even worse, the violet beam didn't lose any momentum. It shot forward into the hunters behind him, and all those who were struck by the beam immediately began to decay. The area enclosed by the wind walls was now furnished by a carpet of ash. That must be Netherworld's gaze, the black-clad man murmured to himself, stiffening as he saw the sight. Netherworld's gaze was a lethal skill that consumed much of the venom-bane scorpion's poison and vitality. In exchange, the terrifying attack would cause instantaneous decay in everything it hit, and was particularly corrosive against living matter. Even a hunter who had 100 superior gene fragments wouldn't be able to take the blow head-on. Wings of wind. Since he was in mortal danger, Chu Feng couldn't risk hiding his best skills any longer. As he dodged the violet light, genetic energy poured out of his body. A pair of wind-green wings unfurled from his back. With another soul's heart activation, a long, thin blade, almost like a rapier, appeared in his left palm. Wings of wind, nature's thorn, Chu Feng's signature move and sword, finally made their appearance. Tempest cut. Jade-green sword energy arced toward the scorpion with the fury of a tempest. As it hit the scorpion's stinger, a small piece of exoskeleton, about the size of a fingernail, chipped off the scorpion. With nature's thorn in his left hand, and a long blade in his right, Chu Feng seemed to have morphed into a howling tempest himself. While it defended against his attack, he rushed toward the scorpion, swinging his blades. Amidst the whirlwind of attacks, the venom-bane scorpion let out a small cry, had a few more pieces of its exoskeleton chipped off, and again went back into stealth. Chu Feng chased after the scorpion, but the moment right before it vanished, the scorpion shot out another, Netherworld's gaze. Be careful. After seeing how horrifying the effects of the skill were, Chu Feng naturally had to swerve to dodge the attack. As he called out a warning, he flapped his wings, barely avoiding the ray. With Chu Feng's advance warning, none of his subordinates fell prey to it this time around. However, one of the wind walls had vanished entirely after being struck by the attack. Seeing the enclosure break apart, Qin Zhao's body crackled with lightning. With a yell, he streaked toward the scorpion like a bolt of lightning. Halt them! Chu Lan shouted, seeing Qin Zhao and his team approach. Amidst the clash of genetic energy and steel, the Qin and Chu hunters began to face off with each other. The Zhou, Li, and Zhao teams also rushed into the enclosure, turning the battlefield into a mess. As everyone was distracted by the fighting, a translucent cloud of mist wafted over the battlefield and through the wind walls. Within the enclosure, the superior-grade Venombane scorpion had gone berserk, shooting off, netherworld's gaze, indiscriminately with a wave of its stinger. Like a web, the death rays crossed the enclosure, killing yet another half-dozen elites from the Chu clan. Then, the Venombane scorpion went back into stealth. Chu Feng began to frown. This superior-grade Venombane scorpion was the smallest of all the superior-grade creatures he had fought. Coupled with its stealth ability, it was more than able to match Chu Feng's wind-attuned speed. Even he was having a hard time dealing with the scorpion. It was difficult to catch, and lethal when it struck. Suddenly, he noticed the mist drifting into the enclosure. "Yunbing, you came." Chu Feng didn't even cast her a look as he continued chasing after the scorpion, as if he had long since guessed that Yunbing would have been the first hunter in. Yunbing smiled as she morphed back into a human. "It looks like you need some help." "Help? Shall we call it cooperation instead?" Chu Feng smiled, seeming to have come to the same conclusion. "Cooperation? How do you want to split the spoils?" she asked. "We won't try to hinder each other. Whoever defeats the scorpion takes it all." "Deal." Yunbing nodded, returned to mist, and rushed toward the battlefield. At the same time, Chu Lan, who had been eyeing Qin Shao throughout the fight, successfully managed to stop him from approaching the scorpion. However, she was incapable of stopping the three corporations' teams from heading in while she blocked Qin Shao. Cloudmire. On the battlefield, Yunbing waved her blade, expelling the mists around her. The fleeing superior-grade scorpion suddenly stiffened as the mist surrounded it instead. The mist seemed to make the air denser, preventing the scorpion from skittering as quickly as before. Moreover, despite their evanescent appearance, the scorpion couldn't seem to cut its way out of the mists. Tempest Slash. Chu Feng certainly wouldn't give up such an opportunity. Almost immediately as the scorpion became entrapped, he crossed his two blades and swung both at the scorpion, sending a cross-shaped slash of wind toward it. At the same time, he swooped down on it with a flap of his wings. Suddenly, two mutated-grade scorpions appeared out of nowhere and took the vicious blow, exploding into pieces as they did so. The superior-grade Venombane scorpion let out another desperate cry, and a dozen mutated-grade scorpions, like loyal soldiers, rushed out from the depths of the cave and began harassing Chu Feng. Scram! In anger, Chu Feng swung his swords again, killing the mutated-grade scorpions before rushing toward the superior-grade one. Thundercloud Strike! But before he could advance, a sword wreathed in mists had stabbed the superior-grade scorpion's body. With a distinct crack, a burst of dark violet blood shot out of the scorpion's body, and it vanished from sight. This time, it had vanished for good, and even Chu Feng's, the Whispering Wind, couldn't sense its position. Just then, the teams led by the three corporation heads had smashed the remaining wind walls apart. Together with Qin Shao, they rushed toward the heart of the battlefield. All six clans were together again, but their gathering was hardly as peaceable as before. The teams of hunters, their swords raised, billowing clouds of genetic energy swirling around them, were trapped in a stalemate. By the waterfall, the black-clad man's smile deepened.